But the athlete is the boss, right? So you need to kind of be okay with whatever feedback they give you. They're not feeling it, dial it way back. You're not the boss. You're not the one that's pregnant. You're probably not a doctor. So be okay with that conversation and let them kind of guide it towards you and ask them how they feel, ask them what they want to do. But also in some of those instances, you're going to need to throttle them back and manage the threshold for them. All right, guys, welcome back to Jerk Block Talk. I'm Jason Fernandez. We're here at CrossFit Rife, and today I want to talk a little bit about something that we've had a good deal of experience with here at CrossFit Rife, and that is training pregnant women. So over the course of our 7 years, we've trained a little bit more than 30 athletes, some of which came in when they were pregnant, some of them got pregnant while they were here. So something we've dealt with pretty frequently. And we're going to talk about some things to take into consideration when that happens, because it's undoubtedly going to happen when you become a gym owner or a coach. But first and foremost, I've never been pregnant before. I am not an OBGYN. Your athletes need to talk to the doctor. If you want to help kind of facilitate that conversation, we'll talk about some things so that you can help your athlete communicate that to the doctor to help put the doctor at ease, so that they know that what you're doing is safe for the athlete. Okay, so a couple things we need to take into consideration. One, I'm a big fan of this. When they come in and that conversation happens, they're like, hey, I'm pregnant. This is what I tell all the athletes. We're gonna ditch the intensity. I want you to dial it way back, and we're just gonna get the movements in. So I'm not super concerned with them like trying to kill themselves and PR their Fran time. They're growing a person, so that should be the focus. So just dial it back. They need to be okay with that. And that's something you need to communicate with their doctors, that, hey, I'm not going super crazy on this stuff. I'm just going to keep the movement in so I can keep the functional aspect of this. At some point, usually around the second trimester, when they start showing a little bit more, some of them is a little bit earlier, some of them it's later, we're going to need to ditch the barbell so that we're not navigating the belly. We don't want to run the risk of actually, hitting the belly with the barbell or creating bad habits with the barbell because we're going out and around the belly. So just make that shift to dumbbells, guys. Not a big deal. Prone positions. We don't want them laying on their belly, right? That's pretty common knowledge that pregnant women don't want to be laying on top of the baby. So what I'm talking about when I say prone positions, push-ups, burpees, we need to modify those accordingly, and we're going to cover a couple different things for all of these so that you can make some quick adjustments for your athletes. And then the last thing, hanging movements, okay? We need to take some things into consideration. The abdomen wall or the abdominal wall is going to be already stretched out and weakened. We need to take into consideration kipping movements, how aggressive those are going to be. I don't really want to add any more stress than is already happening to the abdomen. So we probably want to shift away from pretty aggressive kips and start switching towards a little bit more strict movement, and as well as just ditching some of those hanging movements altogether for safety purposes. Think rope climbs, muscle ups. What we don't want to do is have an accident where they lose control, they get a little bit crazy on a kip, they fall from the rings, they lose their grip on the rope climb, they fall down, they can't control that, they potentially fall on their stomach, injure themselves, worst case scenario, injure the baby. So we just kind of want to get away from that stuff once they get a little bit later into the pregnancy. But the athlete is the boss, right? So you need to kind of be okay with whatever feedback they give you. They're not feeling it, dial it way back. You're not the boss, you're not the one that's pregnant, you're probably not a doctor, so be okay with that conversation and let them kind of guide it towards you and ask them how they feel, ask them what they want to do. But also in some of those instances, you're going to need to throttle them back and manage the threshold for them. Again, they're growing a human being. Intensity is not really necessary at that point. We want them to maintain the stimulus of the workout, the functional movements, but not put themselves at risk. So I don't want them getting overheated. I don't want them getting hypoxic where they can't breathe. What's happening to them is happening to the baby. So take that into consideration. So let's talk about a couple different movements we want to look at. So first one, barbell. Again, we all know we want a nice straight bar path depending on the movement that we're looking at. Let's take the clean, for instance. If I'm going to go through a clean and I want to get this good close bar path, that's going to go away once I get really, really big, and it's gonna turn into something like that, okay? That's a bad habit on the barbell, which will carry over if they're doing that longer than they should be within their pregnancy. But I also run the risk of, like, if I get it in close, I'm gonna end up banging the belly. If I was a pregnant woman, banging the belly with the barbell. We don't want that to happen. So just shift to the dumbbells, okay? I can do all of those movements and maintain the stimulus of those movements, you know, hang power cleans, hang snatches, without running the risk of hitting myself there, okay? And I can still keep good bar path when I do those things. You may want to look at ditching like full deep squats depending on your athlete, but again, have that conversation with them and see how they feel. With the push-ups or the burpees, okay, I want to basically bring the floor up, and for some athletes this might be a little bit more difficult because we're going to be talking about an extreme range of motion for the push-ups, but I want to prevent them from laying down on the floor, so I'll just change this to a raised up push-up from a parallel or plates or a box or something of that nature. Manage the range of motion. Some of them might not be strong enough to do that range of motion. That's fine. They're still going to get the stimulus of, you know, that pressing position in the sagittal plane. For the burpees, same thing. I can go here, do a kick out. If you don't have parallettes, you don't have boxes or whatever, that's fine. You can still just do a kick out to the floor and just leave the pressing portion out of it. Again, we want to avoid this position where they're laying down on their belly on the floor. We're just going to ditch that portion of it altogether. Okay. For the hanging movements, again, if you guys are familiar with kipping pull-ups, which most of you are, we kind of want to ditch this kind of like overextended kip here in the back, which a lot of us have. Again, we already have this stretched out abdominal wall. I don't want to stretch it out anymore with this back portion of the kip. Okay, it's going to make it really, really stressful on the abdomen, which is already under stress. So at some point, have that conversation with your athlete about switching from that kip to a strict movement. They're going to be putting on a little bit of weight, obviously, as they get pregnant. So some of them are going to get stronger as they go through. So this is your opportunity to kind of capitalize on that and get them a little bit stronger with the pulling from overhead while they're pregnant. So take advantage. You can miss an opportunity there if you're just like, hey, always kip. Start working on some strict pull. We can save the belly and get a little bit more bang for our buck on the pull-ups. And then lastly, our ropes aren't up. We have to put those up. When we're talking about muscle ups, rope climbs, at some point we're just going to ditch those altogether. We're just going to eliminate that safety concern. Take a step back with your athlete, think scaling options. Think about an athlete that doesn't have those skill sets. If they do, we're just going to take them a step back. We can do muscle up transitions. We can do seated, rope climbs to a standing position in that scenario. Because we still want to practice the movement and practice the technique of those movements while eliminating the risk. Okay, this is one of those scenarios where we kind of want to eliminate as much risk as possible and take care of that by just scaling back. That way, when they come back to it after the pregnancy, they've still been practicing that range of motion, the technique, and the positions, and they can get right back into the swing of things, and they haven't really lost a whole lot. And they should be getting stronger if you're working on the strict pulls, so they should be able to get right back into it, maybe even potentially better than they were before. So I wanted to address that as something we've dealt with quite a bit here. Again, we're not experts at it, but it's something we've had a lot of in all different stages. So some people come in, they're pregnant. Some people, they got pregnant while they were here, and you just need to manage that appropriately. There's a really good podcast that CrossFit did with Dave Tittle and Nicole Christensen. She's super sharp. She's had kids before. She's a fantastic trainer. So go listen to that. I'll link that up in the show notes as well. So go listen to that. It's really, really good. She's got a little bit more insight there. But these are some basic tools that you can use to be a little bit more safe with your athletes when they come in and they're pregnant. So take that into account. Dial back the intensity. Start modifying the movement as you go through. Guys, thanks for watching. If you like this content, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.